Hey guys, DMS here. Today I have for you the most balanced, the most well-rounded headphone that I've ever reviewed. Let's check it out. Now before we get into this video, if you want to see more of my reviews, I'm posting weekly over on the Headphone show. Obviously, I'm still posting headphone reviews here too, but if you want to see what I have to say about headphones every single week, you can check me out over there as well. I have reviewed so many headphones over the last 5 years and so many more that I've tried at Can Jams that have shipped through this house, and every headphone does something special. But if you want a headphone that does it all, well, you're usually out of luck. There are some things like the Sundara that are very well balanced and pretty affordable. There's things like the Edition XS, which are pretty great in almost every aspect except for build and comfort. There's things I love like the 6XX, but they all still have weak points. So what if someone took the phrase "jack of all trades, master of none" and quite literally put that into a headphone? That is what I'm holding right now. This is the Aria Stealth, and I believe this is the most well-rounded headphone money can buy. I'm serious. No affiliate links, no sponsors. This checks every box. Let's talk about it, starting with build and comfort. Aria Stealth has very large pads. As you can see, the inner diameter is very nice and wide on every axis, and they're plenty deep to fit almost any sized ears. They can tilt very far, much farther than they need to, in pretty much any direction, which is nice. These are going to fit a very wide variety of heads. The adjustment mechanism for the suspension strap clicks pretty far up and pretty far down, and it provides just enough springy adequate clamp force that I don't feel like too much pressure is either on my ears or on the headband. It has dual 3.5mm entry on the bottom, and if you haven't noticed, this is a massive planar driver. My only real complaint about the build is if you look on the side, you can see that the grills and the magnets are at slightly different angles, and that drives me a little bit nuts, but only when I look closely. These pieces on the side are made out of metal, much stronger than some plastic-backed Hyphemans I've tried in the past, and definitely a welcome change. Now, I also tried the previous revisions of Aria, and I didn't like them nearly as much as this one, but that's not due to build, it's due to sound. So, with that said, let's move into subjective sound, and then we'll talk about objective sound after that with frequency response. Now, subjectively, it's like I said, jack of all trades, master of none. This headphone is plenty detailed. It's a planar, it's going to be fast, it's going to sound good. The highs are very present, but not sibilant. They extend very high. The bass extends extremely deep too. The mid-range is lush, it's textured, and nowhere am I left disappointed in the overall tonal balance. And with that, timbre is fantastic too. Acoustic instruments, pianos, vocals, strings, everything sounds exactly as it should. Soundstage was actually wider than this on the older versions of Aria, but on the older versions of Aria, the timbre was more metallic and I felt like it suffered some. The Stealth is still really wide, but not quite as wide as the previous Aria revisions, and I'm okay with that. I liked really narrow headphones like the 6XX, but I also loved really wide headphones like the HD800S. I find this isn't as wide as the 800S, but it still finds a good balance of being plenty wide, especially compared to almost every other headphone in my collection. It is wider than Sundara, it is wider than Edition XS, it's wider than basically everything I own except for the HD800S. Vocal intimacy is fantastic, and vocal decay has excellent space. The vocal clarity and presence are top notch, and there really isn't anything that I feel like this headphone is lacking. Even in imaging, it just seems really well rounded. Now, granted, there are things that will excel in each of these individual categories more than this headphone. Like the HD650 is a classic and it has more vocal intimacy than anything. The HD800S is wider. There are electrostats out there that are more detailed. But find me one headphone that is as balanced as this is in every single category. because in all my years of this hobby, I haven't. Now, I would really appreciate if you watched to the end of the video where I do my full conclusions, but if you want the short and sweet on this, it's just good in every category. It checks every single box, and no other headphone checks every single box. There you go. With that said, let's move on to objective sound. Now I've got frequency response pulled up here. The green line is the target for my rig, the blue line is the raw measurement, and the red line is the compensated measurement. Basically, if the red line is flat, then the headphone is flat to my target on this rig. And there is absolutely no surprise, it measures fantastically. The bass is strong and deep, it's not muddy, the mid-range is fantastic, we get a little bit of a recess, around 1.5 kilohertz, a good region to have a recess in, and it's not very deep either. We're talking about a very small recess, 2 decibels. Then we have some air up in the treble. It's not harsh, it's not sibilant, it's not grating, it's not grainy. It is smooth, crisp, detailed, and I really can't think of anything more I want in the tuning. The funny thing is given how I didn't like the previous revisions of Aria, I didn't think I would like this one, and here we are, it sounds like a shillfest. But damn, Headphone did it right. This goes to the top of my recommendations list. This is a headphone that I have used daily since it came in, which isn't to say the other things in my collection don't get used anymore, they certainly do. There's times where I want the extreme vocal intimacy of the 6XX or the extreme soundstage of the 800S. There's times I want to use a closed back like my Focal Radiance, or times I want to take a planar on the go and I'll use the Aeon Noir. But this really does it all. Well, except for closed back. It's not a closed back, it's an open back. So I mean, you're not gonna get isolation on the bus. I'm not gonna wear this on an airplane. Okay, so maybe it's not the jack of all trades. Don't wear Aria Stealth on an airplane. But seriously, all things considered, this is a great headphone. I had lower expectations for it and it absolutely blew me out of the water. Is it expensive? Absolutely. But this is what an expensive headphone should be. And that's not to say that all of them should be that, because there's so many niche things that people really like that have their own unique strengths. But I'm really glad that there's finally something in the high end that I can point to and be like, you want something that does it all, here it is. What this says to me is that since I started this hobby, headphones have come a long way. And you know what? At some point in my life, there will be more things like this. There will probably eventually be something even better that comes out that does everything this does. But right now, this one's it, and I very highly recommend the Aria Stealth. Now, one little last note, and that's on amplification. How do you want to power this thing? Well, if you've seen my recent videos, you know that I like the FIO K9 Pro a lot. I also really like the JDS Labs Element 3. Those 2 amplifiers are probably my top recommendations for this headphone so far. There are other things I'm going to be testing in the near future, but right now those 2 are my absolute go-to. It is not power hungry enough to have to be used balanced. And if I really had to pick between the 2 amps, I would say I probably like the Element 3 a little bit more than the K9 Pro for the Aria Stealth. But honestly, it sounds so good on the K9 Pro, which is what I usually use at my desk. I don't think you're missing out if you have either one of those 2 amps. And with all of that said, I want to go listen to this headphone, so I'm gonna wrap up this video. In what may be the most glowing review I have left since the HD560S, there you have it. The Aria Stealth. So guys, if you like this video, please leave a like down below, a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community and help support the channel, you can get in my Telegram chat and ask me questions directly. There's a Patreon linked in the video description that gives you access to that chat. As always, don't forget to stick around and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Till the next one, guys. Peace.